Just to give a recap, we heard from foster parents, we heard from experts from what they did, and I guess what we'd like to get to committee, Madam Secretary, you and your staff members, is, what's present policy? We don't want to talk about anything from a lawsuit standpoint. And we did, Senator Mizell did address Senate Resolution 52 in the information that we were looking for there. So from her vantage point, I think, and Senator Mizell, am I missing anything? What you basically wanted to know today is kind of what is the policy and what is the data out there. But we do not want to visit the lawsuit issue whatsoever.
Marketa Garner-Walters, Secretary of the Department of Children and Family Services. And members, I have to say, I have never been so upset as I am right this moment. And I apologize for being out of breath, but I walked as quickly as I could, and I'm trying to calm down. I have never disrespected this committee, and the attitudes shown by these members about me and my department is unfair. Senator Mizell, you and I talked last night and agreed that we would not come today because of the lawsuit. So imagine my surprise when I come out of a very hard part of my job, that every month I have a child death review committee to hear about children in the state that have died. I come out of that meeting to turn on this hearing and hear that I was disrespectful by not being here after we agreed I wouldn't come. And Senator Mills, I said to you this morning I would not be here because of the lawsuit. And I thought you agreed to that. Had I had any indication that you wanted me here, I would have been here. I have never disrespected this body, ever.
Madam Secretary, your work is impeccable, and it's not been brought, but what was brought...
impeccable when I'm being attacked by members of the committee.
Let me just bring one point. We did not say for you to be here. We were just looking for somebody from a policy aspect. I did leave a voicemail message this morning that basically said I would bring somebody that has some policy expertise. This is not an attack of you or the department. It's just some information to bring to the committee as far as the policy is concerned. None of the lawsuit was to brought up, and it wasn't the secretary to be here. It's just somebody in the department to give some information.
So, Senator Mills, let me say this. I'm not a lawyer. It is abundantly clear that anything that we say in this committee on public record can be used against us in the lawsuit that is currently against us. And so, therefore, it is on legal advice that we chose not to testify, and that's why we explained that we're in a lawsuit. I can't speak to what's going on. The policy is the crux of the lawsuit. What happened with the Landrys and the child is a multifaceted thing, but part of their legal argument is based on we didn't follow our own policy. So if I speak to the policy, then it's germane to the lawsuit.
So you can't tell us what the policy is, just the policy as right now that you have, not to talk about the lawsuit or deviation of policy. What is the policy?
Senator McMath, aren't you a lawyer?
Non-practicing.
But if I speak to something that is germane to the lawsuit, doesn't that make it germane to the lawsuit?
Well, I don't think that's the question, Madam Secretary. First of all, this is not me offering you legal advice. I think the question is to the policy itself and not to the lawsuit, which has been a topic that we've clearly been discussing. I think Madam Pro Tem just read a letter
Yes.
from Dr. Zena in
Yes.
which he cites that policy.
Yes.
And so it is relative to the discussion that we're having today.
And portions of the policy have been read. The policy is multiple pages. You have not been given all of it, and you have pieces of it that are taken out of context. I am happy to, I'm not going to sit here and read it, but I am happy to give you copies of it. I am happy to go into a closed-door session and talk about this as long as you want to, but not on public record when I'm being sued. And I just have to say on the record again, I have never, nor has anybody on my staff, ever disrespected this body. And to hear people say that the next session is fiscal and they'll get everybody to come after us, I'm baffled at that behavior when we have never done anything but act in good faith, as I did last night on the phone with you, as Dr. Hodnett did, and as I did with you this morning. I'm totally baffled why we would be painted as uncooperative and unwilling to come.
Madam Secretary, I'll turn it over to Senator Mizell and McMath. What we were just looking for was a clarity of what the policy is.
I am happy
Now,
to
that's
give you
that's all we were looking for today. And when you sent me a message, I wasn't able to get the call. I left you a voicemail message that I would have someone from the department here to answer any questions concerning, I think, the policy. It was not to even get into anything with the lawsuit. It was just to understand what your present policy was that you have in place. That's really all we've been talking about here. And we were really to the point where it seems like there's always somebody from DCF in the audience anytime we have a hearing.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't matter what we do, there's
That's
always
right.
someone from DCFS.
Always here.
So we were just looking for somebody that could give us some information on policy, and it seemed odd to us. It seemed odd to us as a committee that no one at all was here from DCFS, and we were just looking for somebody to give us some clarity on the policy, as some of the people that testified, not the Landrys, but some people testified there was deviation in policy, not consistency with policy, and some families, when they compared notes, saw a lot of discrepancy. Once again, we were just looking for some clarity in policy and procedure, not to talk about the lawsuit. We've had other issues before. I know Commissioner Darden's been in front of issues where he says, I'm presently in litigation, but I can talk to you about what our department does. So if there's been any kind of hurt feelings and anything, that was not the intent. That was not the intent, because you have been in this committee many times with families doing the best you can, and you've done a great job. But from Senator McMath's standpoint, he was saying if the policy needs to be codified, that was something he'd like to work on this session. So I'll turn it over to Senator Mizell. Senator?
And I'll be brief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And absolutely, I hope you know how much we support what you do. But there's this huge elephant in the room. And when the resolution asks for statistics, it's not law, no, it's statistics.
We are happy to do the report from that resolution. I did not get service. I knew about the report yesterday, and I told you that last night.
You did, and I read your response, and
we will
it
be
was
happy
upsetting.
to do the report as quickly as humanly possible to give you all the data you ask for.
But I think the discomfort we all feel, none of us want to have you here feeling bad, Marketa. None of us. We know how dedicated you are. But we have got to all be on the same team. We've got to have confidence that situations of heartbreak like we see, and I get in emails, are not happening. I mean, I don't know how to make it any simpler than that. But please tell us what we need to know to be on your team. I mean, the whole point of the resolution was enlighten us. Dr. Zena is way up here.
Yes, he
and
is.
when Dr. Zena is wringing his hands, it's concerning. And I think more than anything, we thought there would be some answers forthcoming today. And when all we heard was more heartbreak, it's like, here we sit. Here we sit, we want to fix things. We've got the champion of fixing things right here. So we want to do something to make these outcomes what we all want them to be. So there was no intent to hurt. There was absolutely, I felt, I didn't hear it, but I felt a gasp when the department didn't know the resolution had been filed. I mean, I'm just telling you. That's maybe that started a level of concern that took it in a difference. But I'm saying, you're here, tell us something that's going to help us get past this.
What I would respectfully request is that we have time to write the report, to give to you, and then have a hearing on the report. I did not know. I will put my executive assistant up against anybody in state government. If a paper had come to my office that said we had a report to file, we would have done the report. We do lots of reports for the legislature, lots of them. We serve on lots of committees, and we write lots of information for you. Anytime any of you have ever asked us for anything, we have given it to you. So if I had known that there was a report, there would have been a report written. So all I can say is, I'm sorry you don't have it. Had I known, I would have had it. I did not know. You can choose to believe that or not, but I had no knowledge, and neither did any of my child welfare staff or my legislative staff, that there was a resolution passed that asked us to do a report. So we will do the report, and we'll be happy to come and talk to you about all the data that you look for in the report. It is not data that we can easily pull. It will be hand pulled, so I can't say we can write the report in a week, but we will write it quickly, and if you want to set us a timeline, we will meet it. If you want it before the end of this session, which I assume you would, we will do that, and we will bring you everything that we can get. Most of you know, because you voted for a technology upgrade for us, that our technology systems are older than my children, and there are no easy buttons to push to get data out that comes out in the way the report asks for it, but we will hand pull it, and we will get you every piece of data that we can get, and we will come back and we will talk about it. I do not know how deeply I will give you the policy to read for yourself in its entirety, but I want to be clear that I do not know how deeply I can go into policy when I'm being sued about the policy. I just simply don't believe that those two things work, and I'm not a lawyer. But
Is your policy a public document?
yes, sir.
So it seems like you can go over a public document.
When every word that I say at this microphone is going to be used me in a court of law, Senator, I respectfully disagree. I will give you the policy and let you read it.
That's fine. We'll put it in the record, and we'll all take a look at it, and we'll look at it. Senator Barrow?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to kind of go on the record. I have missed a lot of probably what transpired because I was in another committee. And so, Madam Secretary, I am sorry that you feel that, you've been some level of betrayal in terms of what people think about the department. I can assure you that I believe most of our colleagues know the level of the work and the intent of what you guys do at the Department of Children and Family Services. You've been cut drastically over the past decade, and so you're working with about 55% of the staff that you had prior to a decade ago. And so I want to first speak to that and hope that we're able to get beyond that, because I know for sure, and I do believe that many of my colleagues understand the level of the work, of the intensity of what you guys do. And it's not easy work. It is not easy work. It's a tough job, and people are not really properly compensated that actually do this work. But I was trying to look at the resolution. A lot has happened, and so To my colleagues, I do want to say this. How many hurricanes have we been through? I want to say 4.
This is our 5th response, and we are
Since
sheltering 9,000
July or
people.
since the end of
Yes,
last
this
session?
hurricane season.
Yeah. So I'm not offering an excuse, but I know that you guys have been tasked with a lot to do because you are responsible for the recovery efforts as it relates to when a disaster happens. You have to go into recovery mode in terms of assisting families and so forth and so on. And so I can see how something may have fallen through the crack. I do not believe that it was intentional that it was not submitted. So I want to go on record and say to my colleagues that I don't believe that it was intentional. As it relates to the lawsuit, whatever information that you are able to provide to us, I would ask that you do that. However, I would caution you not to put yourself in a box and saying that you're going to do it by a certain time frame, because you are working with very dated equipment, with an overstressed staff that has been still working the last hurricane, working Hurricane Laura, and doing other things that would make it almost impossible for you to get it to us. I would hope that maybe offline there could be a conversation in terms of what is a practical time that this can be sent back to us. But I will caution you to say that you can get it to us by the end of session. I don't know if that's really realistic, especially as I have heard that we're trying to end before the end of the month. So then that would present a whole nother issue.
Yes,
I would just caution you not to do that, but I hope that you guys are able to have a discussion offline about a practical time when we can actually have that report submitted and maybe have a hearing on that. Again, I just think that people are just stressed. Everybody's stressed. We have been through, in general, everybody have been through some very tough times. I mean, COVID-19 was the first thing we have to deal with, and we're still dealing with it. And then here in Louisiana, which your department is tasked with, you've had 5 disasters that you've had to respond to, and you're still working. So I just want to make sure I put that out there, and I want you to know that I believe my colleagues understand the level of work and intensity that you do, and we are not by any means necessary trying to denounce that or try to play it down or try to say that you are purposely not doing anything.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well said. Senator Hitchkins?
I think she summed up most of it, the Vice Chair did, Mr. Chairman. But, Madam Secretary, I want to say that we've worked together for 5 years from appropriations on the technology unit and health and welfare on the other side. And what you've done in the last 10, 15 minutes, I think is what we wish somebody was in the room to do a half an hour ago. Just someone to tell us what you could say and what you couldn't say. To be here to ask a few questions, to get the response, back and forth conversation. For no one to be here was just different for us. I mean, we're used to looking out somebody, there's someone from DCFS is here, could you come onto the table and hold this conversation that you just did in the last 15 minutes. So for coming down here now, I appreciate it. The attitude earlier was because there was no one out there to ask that question to. So, but I do thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Well said. Senator Boudreaux?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I don't want to be redundant in any way, but I want to reiterate my support for your leadership. I want to reiterate the task. I know you served under a previous governor, and you came back and had half of the staff, and there were more requests. And I think Senator Barrow probably hit it. There's just a lot of tension. There's so many moving parts, and from this senator to you, Madam Secretary, it would never be disrespectful in any way. I too started here, went to finance, went to a meeting in the governor's office, and thought I was going to be able to go sit down for a few minutes, and then they said something's going on in health and welfare. I said, well, I want us to relax a little bit and smile, because I was coming down the hall. I was going to go to my office and just kind of close the door and turn the light off for a minute and just chill before we go on the floor. And they said, there's something going on in health and welfare. I didn't know what in the hell I was walking into, but I felt the tension when I got here. And it's unfortunate. I want us to hit the reset button. This guy next to me has been a friend for 40 plus years as the chairman of this committee. He's not going to let a freight train run over anybody. He's going to take it first. I have the utmost confidence that this committee will do whatever needs to happen to get it, and under his leadership, the members of this committee will make sure that we're always respectful, we always do the right thing. And like I said, not being in on the first part, all I want to do is just tell you from the bottom of my heart, you were here and left and came back to do a job that a lot of people would not take under those circumstances. To the men and women in your department, I want to tell them thank you. Senator Barrow hit it on the head. We don't know what we're going to deal with before the end of 2020. But again, under Chairman Mills' leadership, we're going to get where we need to get. If we all just take a deep breath, we just say a quick little prayer that the Lord give us that inner strength and guidance to just understand during difficult times, there's a lot of tension and stress. We're going to get there. And I want you to know we're going to get there together. And I heard Senator Mizell as I walk in said, we're on the same team. I know that. I know that you and your staff want to make sure that everybody in this state have an opportunity regardless of what the rules are. And I know there's some other circumstances that we're dealing with. But, Mr. Chairman, we just take 10 seconds and just pause for a minute, let the Lord and his light shine on us and come into us and just remove some of the tension that we have in us, some of the disappointment, some of the frustration, some of the anger. And when we hit that reset button, we all know that we're gonna come out of this together. If we can, just pause for 10 seconds. I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to Madam Secretary, thank you again for your leadership.
Thank you so much.
Eloquently said. Senator Boudreaux? I'm saying Senator Mizell. Senator Boudreaux just finished.
I just want to I think we've all been affected. I mean, I've never been in a committee where we stopped and had a moment of silence for 10 seconds about our mood. That's how intense we all feel. But I just had an opioid bill. The opioid bill didn't make it because we didn't have enough providers here. We don't have any children here. We don't have anybody that's affected by what we're talking about here but the parents. And, we're trying to do, with absolute full respect, you carry a huge load. But we're trying to do what we can for those who are not here, that we're looking out for, that the funding you get, because we all love the kids in Louisiana. We all love our children. We all want to do the right thing. And I think we're all just trying to find a way to find a path to that right thing. How do we make it where the sadness never happens? So that's what we're asking you. That was the intent of the resolution. I know I'm repeating myself, but if we can leave on the note that with the next time we meet, we will know more. I think maybe it's my age. I just feel like we can't waste a lot of time. People's lives are affected by what we don't know and what we don't try to fix, and this is one of those things. I mean, there's reasons, and then there's just impossible. So if you could get us this information, we could see what could be done. We look at the policy as it is, and we get the lawyer McMath over there to interpret it for us. And then we go from there, working together for the outcomes we all want. So I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate it, and I know we all do. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Senator McMath?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, it's very clear that it was probably my thoughts that I aired that prompted maybe the reaction that happened today. And having you here, I'm glad you're here now. Chalk it up to if it came across as I was attacking you or your department, that was not my intention. I think hearing the stories that we heard today, And applying that to my young children maybe have gotten the best of me. But I also know that if there was representation here today, probably wouldn't have gotten that far. But again, I'm glad you're here. And I look forward to hitting the reset button, as Senator Boudreaux said. I carried a bill for you guys in my very first regular session. I always want to be an ally and a supporter of DCFS, but more importantly, and I think the rest of the committee would probably agree with this, as would you, that we're here not for us, but for the children of the state of Louisiana. And I think if we all take that into account, we're all on the same team.
And
So
you proved that when you came to meet with me, as you said, before you were even installed, whatever the proper word is, as a senator, and before you were sworn in at an event that we were both at.
yes, ma'am.
I know your hearts. That's why it was so disappointing to tune into a committee that felt so very harsh. I fully commit to continue the work that I have done for the majority of my life for children and families. I'm older than all of you, and so I've been doing this work longer than some of you have been on this earth. I won't stop fighting for children and families, regardless of how many times I'm sued. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And let's just kind of recap for everybody. So the action plan is, I totally agree with the vice chair. Don't put a timeline, especially with the session. Potentially, we don't know when it'll end. So let's not put a timeline. Let's make a commitment to one another that this is an important issue. We can call a special committee meeting at any time. We'll work on everybody's schedule. So our to-dos will be the Department of, will do what needs to be done, and we fully respect your timeline and what needs to be done there. We can call a committee meeting at any time. I'll talk to the president. We'll do that. For the families that came here, we heard you loud and clear, and I think we've heard this in committee many times before. Sometimes there's a disconnect with what the legal responsibilities are, and sometimes which you have here. We learned a lot from you, so your testimony is very well received. And I guess on a lighter note, I would say that, Madam Secretary, I think from the committee standpoint, we've sat here maybe and debated raw milk for 2 hours, and a DCF person has sat there diligently in case needed for information. And I think that's what had maybe a little disconnect here, but I think everybody's made their statements that we truly value you, the work of the department. And what I don't think the public knows is we call that department almost on a daily basis with things that are in the ditch, and they always pull it out of the ditch, because we have constituent issues that this department is always there for us. I think in this situation, I think it was almost the standpoint of, where is somebody from DCS to just understand policy? It was not a jab at you. It was not a jab at the department. It was, we need some clarity because we have some expert testimony, and we just need some clarity to understand it. So with that, why don't we hit the reset button, as Senator Boudreaux said. And I think what really stands to our newer members, we said health and welfare brings out laughter, it brings out tears, it brings out a lot of emotion, and you do it because you love it. We volunteered for this committee because we love it. So we're on the same mission. We're gonna get it. We're gonna get it right. But I will promise everybody that's here, we'll have another discussion when we have the data. Thank you all very much.